means it simply means when light is thrown into eye, the pupil constricts. So what is the purpose of this reflex? Basically, like all other reflexes, this reflex is also protective. It protects our eye from bright light. Okay, how it protects our eye from bright light? Because the pupil, when the pupil constricts, the amount of light which is entering into the eyes, it is reduced. As you can see here in this figure, this is our eye in the normal light, and you can observe the size of the pupil, it is normal. But when we go in bright light like sunlight, the pupil immediately responds by constricting. The size of the pupil reduces, so it decreases the amount of light which is entering into the eye. So in this way it protects our eye. And the reverse happens when we go in dim light. Okay, as you can see here in the figure below, when we go in dim light, reverse happen, and the pupil, it increases its size. Pupil dilates, and this happens just to increase the amount of light. When the light is dim, so our eye tries to capture maximum light so that we can see clearly. So when light is thrown into eye, the pupil of that eye constricts. For example, we are throwing light into the left eye, so the pupil of left eye will constrict. But along with that, the pupil of the other eye, that is the right eye, will also constrict. And this is called indirect light reflex or consensual light reflex. And what are its bases, I will discuss in the next slide. Okay. In this figure, I am going to show you the muscle which is bringing about this response. This muscle is called sphincter pupillae. Okay. Now this is, as you know, this is iris. Okay. This is the hole in the iris which is called pupil, and these muscles in the iris, they are controlling the diameter of the pupil, the hole in the iris. So these two muscles, sphincter pupillae, when it contracts, the pupil decreases in size. This is called meiosis. Now this response is caused by the parasympathetic nervous system, and when this muscle dilator pupillae contracts, the size of the pupil, as the name of this muscle indicates, it increases. So pupil dilates. This is also called mydriasis. Please remember that mydriasis or dilatation of the pupil is brought about by the sympathetic nervous system. So in this figure, the pathway of the light reflex is shown. Okay, the pathway of the light reflex is shown. As you can see here, this is our retina. So when the light rays, they fall on the retina, the photoreceptors are stimulated, and the afferent impulses, they go along the optic nerve. This is optic nerve, which is our second cranial nerve. So we can say that the afferent pathway or the sensory pathway of this reflex is second cranial nerve. So impulses go from the retina along the optic nerve to the optic chiasma. This is optic chiasma. Okay, then the impulses go along the optic tract to the midbrain in the pretectal area, as you can see in the bottom of this figure. Now here an important thing takes place. From the pretectal nucleus, excuse me, as you can see from the pretectal nucleus, the nerve fibers, they project through the interneurons to the next destination, that is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the both sides. Okay, from the pretectal nucleus, the nerve fibers, they go to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the both sides. Okay, so that is why when the light is thrown in one eye, the pupil of the other eye also constricts. So from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, this is the parasympathetic nucleus of the third nerve. From here the efferent pathway of this reflex starts, and the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, they arise from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus and they go to the ciliary ganglion. Okay, so these fibers, they are going into the oculomotor nerve. That is why the efferent pathway of this reflex is third nerve or oculomotor nerve. So from the ciliary ganglion, the postganglionic parasympathetic fibers, they arise and they go to supply the sphincter pupillae muscle. These postganglionic parasympathetic fibers, they travel in the short ciliary nerves and they supply the sphincter pupillae muscle and cause decrease in the size of the pupil, which is called pupillary constriction. Now in this figure, an important phenomena, an interesting phenomena has been shown, which is called Argyle Robertson pupil. Now Argyle Robertson pupil is such a pupil which responds to the accommodation by constricting. As you can see, when an object has been brought close to the eye, near to the eye, the pupil, they are responding by constricting and by medial convergence. Both the eyeballs have converged to the medial side, and if you look closely, you will observe that the size of the pupil has also decreased. Meiosis or pupillary constriction has taken place. But if you throw light into such a pupil, it will not constrict. Okay, this pupil responds to the accommodation by constricting, but when we throw light, the size of the pupil does not decreases much. So no pupillary constriction takes place in response to the light. And the most common cause of the Argyle Robertson pupil is CNS syphilis or neurosyphilis, because its cause is that the pathway of the light reflex is dorsal to the pathway of the accommodation reflex. So we know that the organism of the syphilis, Treponema pallidum, this causes selective restriction from the dorsal side, from the sensory side. So first of all, the light reflex pathway is destroyed, but the accommodation pathway usually remains intact. Hope you would have understood this in this video about the light reflex. If it is so, please consider subscribing to this channel, and happy learning to all of you.